Now let's see how we can use a ghost follow animation component in our game. Previously in this game you have seen using the ghost follow animation component when I got a key and opened the door and read the note. At that time one of the ghosts started to following me, and I want to repeat this action again by going to my land and find the key in here, and after, let me find that key, and after getting the key, let's open the door. I read the note, and after reading the note you can see that one of the ghosts start to following me because I have added a ghost follow animation component to this object so that it start to activate after I read the note. And one of the important thing about using the ghost follow animation component is no matter your object has active collider or not, when you add a ghost follow to that object will work like a ghost and can pass through all the objects in the scene and follow the player. And you can see this effect in the ghost follow animation component. You can pass through all the objects. Now let's go to the land to see how we can add a ghost follow to an object in the scene. And for the example, I want to add another ghost in my scene so that work on that ghost. So I will go to the game starter package in there, and from the hollow I will add another ghost in my land. And I want my color to be better seen, so I will go to the materials, and in here from the colors I will select a yellow color for my object. And before doing anything I will exit my builder because I want to show you something. Let's go to the land. If I hit the ghost, you can see I have an active collider for my ghost, and I cannot pass through that object. I wanted you to see this effect, and you can see after I give the ghost follow to this object can pass through all the objects in the scene, and no matter it has active collider or not. So this is one of the things you should bear in mind when you are using the ghost follow. Alright, now let's select my ghost in here, and let's add components, an animation component. Let's add a ghost follow to the object, and let's check its parameters again. The first parameters again is the enable toggle that is active by default. That means when I enter my land, this object will start to following me. And like the other components, again I have two receivers of event to enable and event to disable that I don't want to use them at the moment, so I leave them empty. Target, again for the ghost follow we only support main player at the moment. That means all the objects that have ghost follow animation component only follows the main player, not anything else. And you can control the speed of following the player by this parameter. At the moment it's 1 by default, but you can increase or decrease this speed, depends on your game. And we have another parameter in here, distance to stop following, and by default it's 1.5. That means when the distance between the main player and the ghost is greater than 1.5, the object starts to follow you, or in other words follow the main player. But when the distance is equals to 1.5, the object stops following until the player moves again, and this distance be more than 1.5 again, and the object will follow the main player until the distance will be equals to 1.5. And if you want your object to fully reaches the main player, you should set this value to 0. But I will leave it as it is at the moment. And the other parameters in here are two senders, unfollowing start event and unfollowing end events. These two senders send some events. For example, the first one send an event when the object starts following, in the other word starts moving, and the other event is sent to the land when the object reaches to this distance and stops following. Alright, and also we can limit the directions of moving our object while it's following our main player. For example, by default the Y direction is freeze. That means if I get inside my land, this object starts to following me, but if I go up the roof in here, this object cannot reach the main player, because it cannot move in the y direction towards the up. So it won't reach to this distance, and it won't follow the main player. And if you want your object to move in all directions, you should turn off the y direction too, so that your object can move in all directions. All right, now let's exit the builder to check the results. Now if I enter the land, you can see as soon as I get inside my land, this object starts following me, and when the distance between me and the object is 1.5, it stops moving. And when I move again, because the distance is greater than 1.5, this object starts to following me again. And you saw this object had an active collider, and after adding a gauss flow to this object, you can see this object pass through all the objects in the scene. And that is an important thing about the gauss flow. Again, I will repeat. Alright, now let's back to the builder again. Now I want to use other parameters of the gauss flow for my object, so I will select my object and the gauss flow parameters. For example, I want to use these two event senders. One is on following a start event, is when my object starts moving and following the main player. And in here, I want when my object starts moving and a special sound is played. So I want to send an event to the whole the land, and I call this event play sound. And when my object starts following, the play sound is sent to hold the land, and I need a sound component to receive the play sound and plays a special sound. So I will go to the add component, and from the add component, let's go to the audio, and let's add a sound component to my object. And in here, because by default it's enabled, I don't need to need to write anything in here. And I need to select something for my sound. For example, in here, I want to select this ghost. And item selection 1 is okay for the ghost. And in here, we have an event to play, which is the receiver of this sound. I want this receiver to receive the play sound and plays the ghost item selection 1. So I define the play sound in here too. And now, whenever my ghost starts following the main player, the play sound event is sent to hold the land, and receiver of this sound will accept the play sound and plays the ghost item selection 1. Alright, now let's back to the follow ghost follow component. And the other sender in here is on following end event, is when my object stops following the main player because of reaching to this distance. And in here, in this case, I want when my object stops moving and stops following the main player, and a special VFX is played. So I call this event play VFX, and I need a VFX component to receive this sent event to play in a special VFX. So let's go in here, and from the effect, let's select the VFX there. And in the VFX parameters, again, I don't need to define anything here because by default it's active. And I need to select my correct VFX. For example, I need depth, and also the form of the depth, I need this one. All right, it's awesome. And let's define the play VFX and the receiver of this VFX, so that whenever I send the play VFX event to hold the land, this part receives the play VFX and starts to play the dead saw electric dead yellow. So let's go in here and type play VFX. Alright, and everything is okay. Let's exit the builder and check everything. If I get inside my land, you can see the object is following me. When it reaches me, an event of playing VFX is played. And again, when I move, and a special sound is played because the ghost starts moving. And when it reaches me again, the VFX is played. Alright. Now, one of the things I suggest you to use when you are using the ghost follow component, it's better to use the look at component with the ghost follow, because as you can see, when I'm moving in several directions, the ghost doesn't turn to my object, and it just only moves in several directions without turning to the player. So I always recommend to use the look at component with the ghost follow. So I will go back to the builder, and let's select my object, and let's go to the add components, and from the animation let's use the look at. You can use the look at alone for your objects, but when you are using the ghost follow component, it's better to use the look at with the ghost follow to have a better and more realistic result. And now let's check the result of the using look at with the ghost follow. The ghost turns to me and following me, and when I move in several directions, the ghost again turns to me and follows my player. And this is more realistic in comparison to the times that we don't use the look at with the ghost follow. Alright, back to the builder. This time I don't want my ghost to follow my main player whenever it gets into the land. Instead, I want my ghost to start following my player after doing something in the land. For example, like the other ghosts in the game after reading the note. So I will select my ghost in here, and from the ghost follow I will disable this toggle, because I don't want by default it follows me whenever I get inside my land, and I need to define something in the event to enable so that it starts to enable and follow my main player. And I should know what is the event sender of reading the notes. So let's go and find the note in here, and let's go to NPC dialog system, and let's go to the graph. Don't worry about this one if you don't know anything about them, because I will talk about all of them in the next videos, so don't worry about them. I just wanted to find the event sender I have used for reading the note. And here I have an event sender after reading the note. This is the find skull, and I should define the find skull on activation the ghost follow of my new object too, if I want my object to follow my main player after reading the note like the other ghosts in the game. So let's back, and let's go and select my new ghost, and in the ghost follow let's use the event to enable find skull. And now let's check it. Let's save and exit my builder. If you look at that, if I get inside my land, the ghost doesn't follow me. But let's go and find a key. And open the door. And read the note. And after reading the note, you can see the new ghost is following me like the other ghost, and that works. Alright, I think I have told everything about using the ghost follow, and I think it's enough for this video, and in the next video we will go through the other components. Have a good time, good luck.